Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Dear Masuma with myself, Sana Araji, and Masuma Jaffar, who will be answering your deepest concerns and worries today. Assalamu alaikum, Masuma.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So we've got another letter from a viewer that they would like to put forward to you today. And it says, Dear Masuma, I have never really had a smooth relationship with my mother-in-law. She lives abroad in Pakistan and now she is coming to live with us as my father-in-law passed away recently. My main concern is that I just don't get on with her and she tends to make things very difficult for me. She complains about everything and is always trying to show me how to do things better. I don't think I can live with her. This actually wasn't discussed with me because due to religious and cultural expectations, I should just get on with it and expect this as it's normal. But I'm struggling to the core. Please, could you advise me?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can we take this one step at a time? I think there's lots of things that she's brought up. So she starts off with saying that she's never really had a smooth relationship with her mother-in-law. Maybe take this as an opportunity to improve that relationship.
Okay.
A lot of the times, we don't think of our mother-in-laws the same way as we think of our mothers. And it's very difficult to, because obviously our mothers have done a lot for us. Our mother-in-laws haven't. But if we can look at it from the perspective of, I'm actually enjoying the fruits of her labor because my husband is who he is because of her. So look at it from that perspective. She does have rights over me when she becomes my mother-in-law, Islamically. So it's important to recognize that as well. She does become part of the family, and also recognizing from the spiritual perspective how much I can get from her du'as. You know, we're told that a mother's du'as are so very powerful. Now, if I have two mothers' du'as, my mum and my mother-in-law's du'as, can you imagine how successful I would be?
Of course.
So, taking all of that on board is really, really important. So maybe this whole scenario of her moving in with them is a way for her to build that relationship, access more of these du'as, actually learn from her. It makes a huge impact on the children as well, having a grandparent in the house as well. So there's lots of different things that can be looked at in a positive way rather than the negative way.
Of course.
It says that she lives abroad in Pakistan and now she's coming to live with them because her father-in-law's passed away. Again, taking into consideration what her mother-in-law must be going through. Right. She's lost her life partner after how many years of marriage. Now, not only has she lost her spouse, but now she's expected to leave her home, her friends, her community, and move to another part of the world. That's huge. So looking at it from her mother-in-law's perspective,
right,
rather than just from her perspective, would help her. Her mother-in-law's going to go through a lot. She's already been through a lot. If this person imagines what she would feel like if her husband, God forbid, passed away, what her expectations from her children would be.
It's a good way to look at it, actually.
And the fact that she's going to be role modeling that to her children. Look, this is how you look after parents in old age. So she's actually teaching her children how to take care of her when she needs them to take care of her, without telling them straight out, actually role modeling it to them. I think is really, really important. Says my main concern is that I just don't get on with her, and she tends to make things very difficult for me. If you're already feeling you don't get on with someone, then whatever they do, you're going to look at it in a negative way. If I give you the example of, when she first got engaged, if she thinks back to when she first got engaged to her husband, whatever her husband did, it would be perfect, it would be amazing. She'd think of a reason to make it amazing. Whereas if he did the same thing 10 years, 20 years down the line, she can see the faults in it, because no one's perfect. So for example, say they went out for a meal and he, took a cherry tomato in his mouth and he bit it and it splurted everywhere.
Okay, yeah.
Initially, she'd think, oh, that's so cute, that's so amazing. Later on, she'd be thinking, Does he not know how to eat?
Yeah.
Did no one teach you table manners? Do you see how the same action can be perceived in a negative or a positive way depending on how we feel towards that person? So my point here is, if she's already feeling like she doesn't get on with her mother-in-law, then whatever her mother-in-law does, she's going to look at it from a very negative perspective.
Okay.
Whereas if she feels like, okay, this woman has been put in my life for a reason, maybe if she goes into this relationship or into this situation looking at it from the perspective of God never gives you anything you can't handle. So the fact that I am going to have my mother-in-law living with me, I know I can handle this because God wouldn't put me in this situation. Now, whether this comes directly from God, where God is initiating this move and so forth, or whether it comes from the free will of people, where her husband has decided he needs to take care of his mother, her mother-in-law has decided that she can't live on her own, whatever, God doesn't abandon you. He gives you the tools to be able to handle it. So she knows that she can not only handle, but grow from this situation of her mother-in-law moving in with her. Now, if she goes into this situation with the mindset that I am ready for this, because God has put me into this situation, God has given me the tools to be able to handle this situation, then whenever anything happens, if she can make herself think from the perspective of, where is the growth in this? What is God trying to teach me in this?
Okay.
So bring it back to herself rather than her mother-in-law. So rather than putting the onus on her mother-in-law, oh, she's behaving like this, or she's, picking on me, or she's constantly complaining about this, or she's telling me that I can't do anything right. Look at it from the perspective of, okay, where is the growth? If I'm getting irritated, what do I need to learn from this?
Okay.
Why is it bugging me so much? Why am I getting irritated? Why can't I let it go? Yeah. So looking at it from the perspective of, where's the growth in me? How can I get closer to God through this situation? Will help a little bit.
For sure. And also, to be honest, when I hear that she's saying that the mother-in-law's complaining about everything, where is the role of the son in this? Like, for me, I think, well, surely that should be the son's responsibility to ensure that there are boundaries between, his wife and his mother, and that, yes, he loves his mother, he loves his wife, but surely he should be the one that should say to his mother privately, listen, please don't do this or do that. You have to remember this is also this is her home. So if there is something that you're not happy with, change the tone that you say to her. Don't say it in a way where you're taking control, but say they say you can get your point across, but it depends on the way you say it. So if she's just saying, oh, you can't do this, or I don't know why my son married you, or whatever, that could kind of create that negative kind of feeling in your mind that is quite difficult to shake off if you're constantly bombarded with that negativity.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think yes, I agree, but also you've got to realize that she's probably very old, and it's much more difficult for her to change the way her behavior, the way she speaks and things like that. So yes, her son has a duty to tell her,
okay,
but respectfully, because obviously respect is something that is demanded by God for the parents. So even if she's not behaving in the right way, that doesn't mean you disrespect your parents.
Of course,
because that the respect is not there if she behaves as a good mother. The respect is there needless. Regardless. So it's that concept of, I have to respect you because you're my mum, even if I don't agree with what you're doing or how you're doing it. So yes, he should tell her, but from a respectful perspective, but also recognize that if she's that old, there may be certain things that she may not be willing to change because she's so used to being who she is. And the older you get, the more difficult it is to change. I'm not saying you can't change. Of course you can. But I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I'm trying to guide the daughter-in-law, because she can't control what the mother-in-law does or doesn't do. She can only control what she does and doesn't do. She can't control her mother-in-law's actions, but she can control her own actions. And she doesn't want to put her husband in a situation where he has to pick between his mum and his wife.
Of course, it's tricky.
Yeah, and the thing is, honestly, as a wife, your husband's going to pick you. So why do you need to put him in that situation? And why do you have to rub your mother-in-law's face in it, sort of thing? You know, she must feel very, looking at it from her perspective, you know, looking at it from the mother-in-law's perspective, she must feel very alone. She no longer has her husband by her side. She's come to another part, you know, she's not got her friends, her community. She's left everything behind. She's in a part of the world where she probably doesn't fit in, doesn't feel comfortable. And now also the other thing to recognize is, initially, if this woman lived with her mother-in-law, it would have been on her terms because she would be moving into her mother-in-law's house. Whereas now the mother-in-law is moving into her and her husband's house. So that's important as well, because now it's your house.
Okay.
So you feel a lot more confident. And therefore you don't feel like you need to push your agenda as much if you're confident. A lot of the times it's you know, it's when we don't feel confident that we tend to sort of push the agenda of sort of, I need to know that I matter. I need to know that my husband loves me. Whereas they've been married for quite a few years. Hopefully she's comfortable in the fact that her husband does love her. She's had time with her and her husband. And now the mother-in-law is moving into their house. So, you know, taking all of that into account would make it easier for her as well. She said that she complains about everything and is always trying to show me how to do things better. Again, looking at it from the perspective of maybe she's not trying to show you how to do things better, but maybe she's just trying to show you how they do things, you know, in their generation. And there may be some things that you can learn, and there may be some things that you think, no, this doesn't work for me. So it's not taking it to heart. It's just sort of picking your fights. Do I have to actually get annoyed about her saying this, or can I just let it go?
It's true, because I think in life you take kind of feedback from people. So see it as feedback. Like how I would probably see it is, okay, she's a lot wiser. She's got a lot more life experience than me. And maybe maybe she knows a way of doing something that is easier and better. So don't always think, oh, she's just coming to control my kitchen, or she's just coming to control. Actually, like you said, you can actually learn a lot, and maybe they can bond on something. You know, perhaps they could do, maybe the daughter-in-law can do something with her mother-in-law to kind of create a bond between the two to improve their relationship without making it obvious, but kind of maybe taking her shopping or doing something to make her make the mother-in-law feel like, you know what, she's welcomed
and important. I think sometimes when you listen to someone, it makes them feel important. I think here I would suggest for the daughter-in-law to use the 10-10-10 rule.
Okay, what's that?
Which is where you, whatever it is that's irritating you, think about it short term. So will it still bug you in, say, 10 hours? Yeah, it might.
Right, okay, yeah.
Think of it in middle term. So will it still bug you in about, I don't know, 10 weeks, 10 months?
Okay.
Long term, will it bug you in 10 years? Right. And I would add another one, will it bug you in the hereafter?
Okay, yeah.
So you're actually taking it all the way. So before you react, bring the 10-10-10 rule in and think, okay, is it something that I really need to make a big deal about? Is it going to, in the grand scheme of life, is it really that important? If it makes her feel important, let me listen to her. I don't have to take it on board. Maybe I can actually use it to my advantage. You know what, Mum? I don't think I know how to cook this as well as you do. Maybe when we have this for dinner, you can cook it. One less worry for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, actually sort of taking things on board, maybe sort of looking at it, you know, making her try to feel important, giving her things to do as well. It's like, you know, a lot of the times I think she may, the daughter might feel like, the daughter-in-law might feel like she needs to do everything to show her mother-in-law that she's, you know, coping and she's organized and she's in control. Maybe don't take it from that perspective. You know, maybe sort of let her, so that she feels that she's part of the family and she's helping out and she's doing things as well.
That's a really good idea, actually, because a lot of the time they think, as a daughter-in-law, you think, and my house needs to be pristine clean, everything needs to be done. I don't want her to see any sort of flaw. But in fact, if she's living with them, maybe if she feels there's a sense of purpose, like you said.
And if it's something that bugs her, it's like, for example, if she feels like, oh, you know, the kids are constantly leaving their, you know, toys around. Okay, Mum, why don't I leave you in charge of that? You help sort, you know, clean that up, sort of thing. So that's a really good idea. Letting her take control of the things that's bugging her, because it doesn't bug you. So why should you have to worry about it?
Very true. Yeah.
One of the other things that maybe she could think about is maybe getting a job, so it gives her that time out.
Okay.
Because then, you know, they have that time out from each other, and then when she's at home, it's, you know, she doesn't feel like she's constantly with her mother-in-law. It gives her something else to do outside of the home. Extra money, which will always be a help. You know, the mother-in-law can then do her own thing as well and gives her time on her own as well.
That's a good idea. And then she'd also, if she has children, I'm assuming she has children, but if she has children, she has childcare as well. So if she's worried about her hours, allow your mother-in-law to go and pick them up from the local school.
For sure.
So it kind of, like you said, that's actually a really good idea for her to get a job, part-time job, even full-time if she's able to do it.
And again, it's a conversation she needs to have with her mother-in-law and her husband to figure out what is doable. Because I don't think it's fair for her to push the children onto the mother-in-law, because she's done her bit about, you know, bringing up her husband and his siblings.
Yeah.
But also, you know what, how much can you do? How much are you comfortable doing? You know, how much would you want to do?
Within her kind of limits, what she's able to do.
What she's happy doing as well. So it's not a matter of, okay, now you're living with us, you have to do this.
Of course.
That's not fair either.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the last thing is the fact that, and I think this is important, that she says this actually wasn't discussed with her, and because of religious and cultural expectations, this is what's expected from her. I think that's what's really getting to her.
I can see why.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because her feelings, her opinion, nothing seems to matter, and that's not fair. I think, you know, her husband should have sat down with her and discussed it with her, and I think she needs to pull him up on this. So have a conversation, but she needs to do it from a place of calmness, rather than, you know, from a place where she's really emotionally annoyed about it, and then her ego comes into play, and then they'll end up shouting at each other. So if she can just explain to him what he did was wrong, because going forward, she needs to have him on side where he's constantly talking to her about the decisions that they're making as a couple to do with the family, which will include her mother-in-law now. So she needs to sort of say to him, look, you made this decision, I will stand by it because you're my husband, and I love you and I respect you, and I don't want you to look bad and feel that I'm not standing by you. But you shouldn't have made this decision without me. We should have discussed it. I should have had a say, because this is our house. And, you know, I need to know that I'm heard.
Of course.
And going forward, and, you know, and then she can take it from going forward. If I'm telling you something about what's happening between me and your mum, I need for you to hear me. And then we can discuss how we together will decide what needs to be done, rather than you deciding on your own. So I think sort of making him realize that they're a couple, and when it comes to their family, it needs to be a couple's decision rather than his decision.
Yeah, because she doesn't feel acknowledged, I think,
at all
from this kind of letter.
And I think that's what's really getting her back up at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think if she has that conversation with him, it will really help her, and it'll help her feel acknowledged and respected, and it'll help going forward in the relationship as well, because there will be problems that come up, and they need to be able to discuss it and decide together how they're going to move forward in that.
It's tricky because, as well, if she has children, the grandma or the mother-in-law could kind of contradict the mother's way of bringing up the children. So there is so much to consider here. It's a massive decision, although it's amazing that you would take your mother in, because obviously you wouldn't want her to go into a home. Islamically, you have a duty to your parents, but still that should have been discussed with the wife before.
And I think it's still not too late. I think it still can be discussed. So they need to have that discussion as a couple, and then when the mother-in-law comes, they need to have a discussion with the three of them. And if the kids are older, maybe they need to have a discussion with the whole family as well. So you know what, grandmother's moving in, but in the end, whatever we say as parents, you need to stand by. So the kids realize that it's still the parents who are the parents. I think that's really important. The other thing to consider, maybe when they're having this discussion, is maybe they can have like a granny flat made, which gives her, the mother-in-law, some privacy, and gives them some privacy as well. Or maybe, you know, a house next door, depending on, again, on their finance and things like that. So it's sort of having them living with them but not with them, if that makes sense.
Right, okay, yeah.
So, you know, a lot of these houses have like a granny flat, which is like a extended part of the house, which is separate to the house. So it has its own entrance and exit.
Okay, yes, yeah.
But it also has the door leading into the house as well.
Right.
So you have your own privacy. So you're living together, but yet you're still not living together.
Right.
So again,
okay.
that's something that could be considered, but obviously finance has to come into this.
Yeah.
I know families who have their in-laws living next door, so they can still take care of them.
Right.
But they're not in their face all the time. So
I guess it depends on the age and the ability of the mother, because maybe a better, if for example, if this mother-in-law is unable to kind of live in a home by herself, even if it's next door, maybe having like one floor or one room that has an ensuite.
Yeah. So that gives her her own space as well.
Exactly. So although they're all together, like you said, if she needs anything, she's there.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yes, I mean, there's lots of different discussions that can still be had. Just because she's coming and she needs to be taken care of, it doesn't mean that this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different discussions in how they're going to live together, where she's going to, which room of the house, or they're going to be able to have an extension, or how is it going to work out? Will she go to work? Will she not go to work? What is the expectation from her? What's the expectation of her?
Yeah.
So all of these things need to be discussed with the husband first.
Exactly.
So they're on the same page, and then with the mother-in-law when she comes as well. So they're on the same page.
Maybe the mother-in-law might want to go out and volunteer in her local, community centre as a volunteer.
And giving her those options, because maybe she's not even thought of that.
Exactly.
So, giving her a life outside of the home. Because again, if she's got nothing but the home, then she will interfere more. Whereas if she's got other things going on in her life, then, she may be too busy to.
Maybe the son needs to make time as well. Maybe join a gym together, go to the gym, maybe
and
to
also,
get fit.
Again, looking at it from the positive perspective, they can have a lot more date nights out.
Exactly. I was going to say
that. Once the kids are in bed,
yeah,
they can leave them. Because the mother-in-law is not expected to do anything because the kids are already in bed. But you don't want to leave your kids on your own. So now it's like you can actually go out in the evening.
Exactly.
So, I think my advice would be look at the positives. Look at where the growth is for you. Look at the fact that God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. So even if it's not directly from God, it's because of the decisions of your husband and your mother-in-law and so forth, God's given you the tools to be able to handle this.
Exactly.
So use the tools that he's given you and grow from this and take the positives from it and run with it.
Exactly. And you have to be very careful, because I know instances of couples that have actually divorced because of it's got so serious, where the mother-in-law got too kind of involved, and then
whose fault do you think that would be?
I don't know. I think both sides have a part to play. I think, like you said, if you go into it with a negative mindset, then negativity will come out. But I also do believe there are some mother-in-laws that can be too much. So I don't know. I guess
I would actually say it's the husband's.
You'd say it's the husband's?
Yeah, because he wasn't able to balance the two.
Yeah, I probably would agree with that.
If he couldn't balance it, then he shouldn't have put them in that situation.
Exactly, yeah.
So he needs to, like you said, he needs to be able to have those conversations with his mum and say, hang on a minute, you can't talk to my wife like this. That's disrespectful. You can't.
Exactly.
But do it respectfully. And at the same time, sort of talk to his wife and say, look, she's old. She's my mum. The bits that you love of me is because of her. And, sort of get her to see that as well. So it's like, I think if the husband, it's going to be a huge thing for the husband. Although the daughter-in-law's thinking it's huge for her, it's actually going to be huge for her husband to be able to balance the two of them. And he needs to, because he's the one who's taken this on.
Definitely. But, inshallah, hopefully they manage to find a way to kind of resolve this. Obviously, keeping in mind that Allah will reward you for doing these things, and thinking of, like you had said before.
From your mother and
exactly.
from your mother-in-law and what you're teaching your children is so powerful.
And one day we will get old, and one day we will require our children to help us.
And also imagine maybe if this was your mum, how would you feel if it was her daughter-in-law?
You really need to think of it like that. Yeah. That's the only way you can kind of put yourself in other people's shoes, is when you kind of think, okay, well, if it was the other way around, how would you feel if your sister-in-law was being like that with your mum? So you have to kind of switch it around, and then it kind of makes sense in your mind. But obviously I'm not going through that, so I can't obviously understand exactly what she's going through. But like you said, go in it with a positive mindset, inshallah, and
inshallah. And honestly,
try and
make
it work.
Coming from a perspective of when my mother-in-law's passed away, and I did live with her, and I wish I'd had more time with her, because it's only when
Yeah.
they're gone that you realise what amazing people they are. Because then you look at the
Subhanallah.
positives. When they're there in front of you, you know.
And you don't regret, if you do all of these good things without having a negative mindset, you won't regret when one day she does pass away. Oh gosh, why did I do that? Or why did I not do that? And you'll have that burden of guilt within you. So do take this opportunity to kind of build up your good deeds, inshallah. But yeah, thank you so much for that, Masuma. And again, another amazing kind of letter that is so current, and a lot of people are going through these issues. And I hope and pray that anyone who's going through this is able to kind of manage and balance your life and keep a positive, open mindset with this. And hopefully Ma'asuma's helped you, inshallah. Thank you, Ma'asuma, again. And please do send us in your queries, your concerns, whatever they may be. Please don't feel embarrassed. A lot of people are going through similar situations. And so if one person speaks up, you may be able to help others who don't have the courage to kind of send in the letters. And inshallah, we will see you again for another episode of Dear Ma'asuma. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.